Welcome, everyone, to this week's edition of the Commercial Real Estate 101 podcast. It's great to see you all this fine afternoon. Today, we have a recurring guest back on the podcast. We're going to be talking about something a little bit different, but Bryant Cheely is back to talk about the topic of Site to Do Business, which is a tool which I know we'll dive into in this podcast that could really help you, whether you're a broker, investor, developer. I mean, it does have a robust, it's very robust, and it can offer you with unique insights to help you make the best decisions possible for your business. So, Bryant, always great to see you, my friend. I think it's almost been a year. We talked offline just now. It's been almost a year since we had this, a similar type of conversation. So,
yeah, it's great to be back, Raphael. I think it was about a year ago we were talking some AI on here, and I want you to know I continue to this day to get people reaching out that I just heard your episode with Raphael. It was so good. So, testament to your podcast, man. Still one of my favorites.
I appreciate it. And obviously, I think it's a testament to the insights that you shared as to why people continually reach out. So, really thankful for you to come on and share your insights. And we talked a little bit offline. If you guys are listening, we're going to try to see if we can do a follow-up to that as well, to maybe get back into, defining, new things, because AI keeps changing, and we'll probably dive into it a little bit during this conversation as well. But just to start out, for those who are listening to this podcast that may or may not know you, could you kind of share some insights as to your background and then what got you into this new role that you've adopted with the CCIM Institute regarding a Site to Do Business?
Yeah. So I've been in the industry overall about 12 years or so now. Entered the job market shortly after the 2008 financial crisis, and there weren't many jobs available. But I found a real estate company looking for a maintenance coordinator. They were only accepting applications by fax machine. I think that's one of the only reasons I got the job. So that was my entrance into real estate, single family property manager for about a decade. A couple of years ago, I wanted to come over and dip my toes into the commercial side of the business. And I was amazed at the amount of technology used. I took my first CCIM course and realized that, this is like going to grad school. There's a lot more to this side of the industry. And I quickly realized I was better with the technology than I was with the people on this side. So I've been using those tools. I stumbled across AI and started leveraging that for commercial real estate application. It caught the interest of the CCIM Institute, and I started working with them to discover ways we can implement AI and integrate it into the curriculum. And they put me on the advisory committee for CCIM Technologies, and that was a blast. We get to look at new products, we see what's coming, we give advice as to the direction that the technologies comes here for the Institute. And then as of January, they actually offered me a position, and I decided this was right up my alley. It played to my strengths. The tools available on Site to Do Business, which we'll go into detail talking about, are largely GIS, Geographic Information Systems, which is a whole new world for me, but I love it. And we'll further talk AI, and we're starting to see where the world of GIS and AI combine, and a tremendous amount of data there. We have a lot of opportunity at our fingertips. So I've been with the Site to Do Business CCIM tech team since January. I'm trying to bring a little bit of AI capability to the table and see what we can implement there. How can we make our tools a little more accessible with it? And they're also training me on these tools and the GIS nature, the Esri tools. And it's just been a wonderful experience. So I do still have my broker's license. I'm down here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I was formerly with NAI Ladder and Bloom. We've been acquired, a little bit of a rebrand. So we're now NAI Rampart. I still find it to be a pleasure if I keep an office in that brokerage office, and 99% of the time I'm working for CCIM now, but to still live in that brokerage world where I can walk right down the hall and say, hey, I've got this idea. Is this useful in your day-to-day? It's a really good environment to stay in. So still juggling a little both, but I am committed to Site to Do Business and these tools. And I think it's a wonderful benefit that comes with a CCIM membership.
Yeah. And I obviously, the fact that you also have the proximity to really probably one of the larger user bases within CCIM. I mean, there's CCIMs of all different backgrounds, but a good percentage of CCIMs that fall into the brokerage space. And so, you have an inside look into the day-to-day of users. And obviously that could provide you with initial insight that you could then apply to improve the systems for CCIM. So we appreciate obviously all you do there. Now we keep on throwing around the term Site to Do Business, and there are some people who have listening to this podcast that probably know what it is, but I'd imagine there's a good percentage that probably don't. And so if you could define what exactly Site to Do Business is, and then how it's, the collaboration with CCIM, that would be helpful.
Yeah, so site to do business is included as a member benefit. It comes with your dues as a CCIM, as well as if you're a designee. We do also sell it outside for a significant markup to economic developers, city planners, that sort of thing. But it's a suite of tools that you can leverage for commercial real estate use. And we do have appraisers who use it. Like I say, the economic development crowd uses it. A lot of different use cases, but the core tools are based around Esri products. And you've probably heard of Esri's ArcGIS. This is mapping GIS software with layers of different data, thousands, about 11,000 different layers of data you want to put on the map. One of the tools built off of ArcGIS is called Business Analyst, and this is kind of the flagship product of Site to Do Business. Business Analyst is a mapping software, and it's worldwide. We primarily leverage it for North America, but it has those 11,000 layers of demographic variables built in. So, and it's geocoded information. So one of those variables may be total population, right? And you can look and see what the total population of the country is. You can designate a zip code or draw a little polygon or set an address and designate a trade area with a drive time or some rings. And then since this information is geocoded, you can look at what that total population is within your designated area. And total population is just one of the 11,000 variables. We can look at things like spending habits. We can get as specific of who purchased alcohol between 12 and 2 at this location in the last 12 months. A lot of different traits. There are tapestry segmentations where they've broken the entire country's demographic habits into tapestry groups. So if you give me your best performing location of let's say a chain of retail stores, I can determine what tapestry segmentation is making you successful there. And then we can plot that tapestry on the map throughout the entire country if you'd like. And anywhere that you see that tapestry, there's a high chance that you're going to be successful there as well, because those are the exact consumers with spending habits that are making you successful elsewhere. In addition to that, with Business Analyst, you can run void analysis. So you can designate your analysis area, you can pick a reference area, and then you can quickly see what's in this market that's not here. And hopefully, with this program, you'll have the data to back up that, look, you have the same amount of people, you have the same spending habits, but you have 4 locations here, and you don't have any locations here. And this program gives you the data to take that to the client and back your case to bring them to the area. And a lot of the things you do in ArcGIS, which are just layers of maps, you can create your own custom maps. You can bring that into Business Analyst as well. So as an example, I was working with an economic developer, and they're working with a lithium battery manufacturer. And I just looked in ArcGIS. I searched the web layers available, and there was a map of lithium deposits throughout the US. So I threw that on the map. And now we can look at those demographics in relation to the lithium deposits that they need to be in close proximity by. So that's kind of one of the core tools, and it is capable of a tremendous amount of things. In addition to Business Analyst, like I said, we have ArcGIS. You have Living Atlas, which is a collection of public maps that people have published in ArcGIS through the years. And it's really cool to see all the different maps that were created there. With Business Analyst, it does have a little bit of a steep learning curve, as any of us who have tried to use it have seen. And most of us want to log in, punch in an address, and get a report with some data. So we've recently developed some new tools, and it's on the new dashboard for Site to Do Business. It's called Quick Reports. And this is simply for that. If you don't want the complexity of Business Analyst, you're not doing the void analysis, all that good stuff, you just want to enter an address and get a report, Quick Reports is that new easy button for you to do that. And that is built right off of Business Analyst. It uses your same amount of credits that you were pulling the same report within that software. And in addition to Quick Reports, we have a new benchmark demographics tool, which instead of allowing you to select multiple reports like the other one does, this just simply pulls the benchmark demographic report from Site to Do or from Business Analyst. And it benchmarks general demographic information for your 5, 10, 15-minute drive time, so you can quickly understand your area. But then it also compares it to your county, your state, and then the overall US. So you can kind of relate those numbers and see what it compares to in the big picture of things. Those are the core products, but we do have some additional ones that are very useful that most people do overlook. One is called Database USA, and this is a great software to pull business list and contact information. So you can designate an area, whether you draw that area with a polygon or select a zip code, a state, a city, and then you can quickly search for businesses within that area you've designated. You can search for businesses by keyword, you can search by next codes, or you can look by keywords. And then as you pull that business list, there's going to be some contact information for the leadership, the executive. So if you have a vacant spot, you know what kind of industry group's likely to fill it. You can quickly run some searches here, get some contact information, and begin your prospecting. We've also got flood maps, and this pulls off the FEMA flood maps. You just quickly enter your address and you're going to get your flood determination. It'll let you know what flood zone you're in and some historical information to go with it. And then we also have pictometry. A lot of us go to Google Earth, grab a quick shot. We're not technically supposed to use those Google Earth images for professional reasons. So pictometry, you're legally allowed to use that. Similar to Google Earth, you type in your address, it will give you a three-dimensional aerial image. You can move around, but it also has historical imagery, and I think a lot of people overlook that. So I can look back 10 to 15 years in time, and I can see how this property or the surrounding area has developed or has been affected by environmental factors and that sort of thing. So it's a great tool for aerial imagery. We've also got a quick shift share analysis tool, a quick employment trend analysis tool. So if you want to quickly run those, and those are used more often than not in the 102 classroom, but they are helpful in our day-to-day operations. And then we have Mark Seipert's Commercial Real Estate Performance Index. And this is a really neat tool. If you're investing in the stock market, you might follow the Dow Jones or the S&P 500 to see how the overall market's doing, and that may affect whether or not you want to invest. Well, the Commercial Real Estate Performance Index is a combined index of 10 different metrics: consumer spending index, the S&P 500, 10 different variables that they distill to give an overall snapshot of the commercial real estate market. So you can quickly look here and see, are we bottoming? Are we topping? Is this a good time for me to enter? Maybe it's a good time for me to just, exit my investment. Really cool index to follow there. Those are all the included tools that come with your dues and your membership fees. But we do have some partner products that are add-ons. They do cost a little more, but we offer them at a significant discount. And we are very excited about some of the partner products. They have some AI capabilities. They're on the cutting edge. So we've long time partnered with Moody's Market Pro, which is not a listing database, but it's a market intelligence database. And so there you can quickly look at comps. You can look at market reports. It has loan information. I can quickly designate an area and with a click of a button, see who's 30 days delinquent on their loan, 60 days delinquent. It's also got a debt service coverage ratio function. And so if I want to, say maximum 1, and I can look quickly and see who's below the 1, and it'll quickly give me a list of properties that are cash flow negative, maybe some potential value add opportunities. So lots of good stuff in Moody's. Pargo is kind of our newest partner product, and we're very excited about this. It's built off of the Esri ecosystem. It's built by a former employee of Esri. It is a parcel data solution, but in addition to aggregating the parcel data from the tax assessors all around the nation, it's also got thousands of other data points. So all of the Google Maps data is in there. The construction permits are in there. Flood information's in there. And all of these data points, the magic is it has an AI search tool. So you literally just tell it what you want to see. And I think this is a site selector's best friend. As an example, show me 20-acre plus industrial parcels with no new construction permits within a half-mile of an interstate that are not in a flood zone. It'll quickly throw them on the map. It also has ownership information built in. If you want to pull in that demographic information from business analysts to Pargo, you can do that as well. So it complements the business analyst and Esri products, but it's also got a wonderful search function for those parcel solutions. So it's something I highly recommend you keep an eye on and take a look at as we roll it out in the coming weeks. We also have Cretelligent, which is kind of an automated due diligence software. You can look at environmental testing. You can do some quick valuations, zoning compliance. It does have an AI function as well that it sifts through all that data with, and it's just really helpful to get through your due diligence. Occupier is a new partner product, and this is a lease management software. So if you are in the property management or lease management business, you upload all your leases and it gives you a nice dashboard. You'll get notifications as your leases come up for expirations or when a rent escalation kicks in. So it just gives you a nice visual way to track all of that. We've also got Rockport Val, which is a wonderful valuation tool if you need to run some budgets, pro formas, that sort of thing. Then that complements, it's really close to the Analyst Pro, which we've always had on the dashboard, and that's built by a current CCIM. Analyst Pro will have those valuation capabilities, but it also got some marketing, package builder. So if you want to take those financials over to a presentation, you can do all that within the Analyst Pro. And then lastly, we've added Scout Space, which is a good tenant rep tool. Let's say you're going to show some spaces around town to a potential tenant. We usually email them a list, and here's where we'll start. Scout Space will give you a nice interactive map that you can share with your clients, and you can plot all the locations you want to show them. It includes a lot of the listing information. You can add notes to it. So at the end of the day, rather than going back through their notes and a string of emails, you log into Scout Space and you've got a map of everywhere you went. You've got pictures included. Any notes that you've taken or talked about will be included there. And you can also export that as a report. If you'd like to, your client oftentimes needs to take that back to some decision makers and talk through it. So it provides a nice report to be able to do that. So that in a nutshell is what's currently on site to do business. We do have some things coming. I have built an AI chatbot we'll be putting on the website in the coming weeks. And this isn't going to be a large language model where you'll do extensive analysis. This is really going to be a navigational aid, and it's familiar with all of our products. So it's somewhere you can ask questions like, how do I create a site in Business Analyst? How do I run a void analysis? And it'll help guide you around. And it also ties in with our support system. So at any point when you're talking to AI, if you mention person or human, it's going to switch the conversation over to our help desk where a real person can pick up and offer you that customer assistance. And it's also got some FAQs built in there just to answer questions. How do you reset your password? How do you do X, Y, Z? So we're hoping that helps navigate the website, makes it a little more accessible to the masses. And then we're also we continue to evaluate new products. We look at a handful every few months. We like to stay on the cutting edge, and that can go a number of ways. Potentially, we partner with them as an add-on. You pay extra. Maybe we'll include it with the core products, and it's included in the benefits. It all depends on cost and who all they apply to. But we do work with our advisory committee to steadily evaluate new incoming products for that reason. So we try to remain relevant, and we try to give you the tools to leverage and be a little more competitive in your practice.
That's amazing. Yeah, and obviously you named off a plethora of different tools and kind of explained at a relatively high level how these can apply in your day-to-day, as we're talking to brokers as an example. So one of the things I wanted to do, just if it's okay, is to walk through the use case for a variety of different people. So just to kind of give people perspective, because obviously we went through a whole list of different products that ultimately have a huge amount of value, but sometimes it's hard to say, okay, well, here's where my starting point is, and how can I use these tools to get to the finish line, and what's the value add as a result. So I wanted to kind of run through a couple of different scenarios just to kind of give people some perspective. So to start, one example that I often get asked is, we have a lot of people who listen to the podcast that are in the brokerage space. I recently had a person on who talked about tenant rep. And so we talked about the site selection process for, let's say, let's get as an example, a retail tenant. So let's say a retail tenant approaches you and says, hey, Mr. Broker, I am looking to enter into your market, and here's some base criteria, like the size of my building, like what our rental rate is we want to be at, and try to help us find a space. Just to kind of walk through some of the use case that you described, you can ask the tenant saying, hey, what are some of the locations around the country that are some of your top performers, and so we can map out that the tapestries as you described, which is something that I need to try to get a little bit more into, because I see the use case value there. So you could look at a site in, let's say they're in Nashville, Tennessee, looking to break into Louisville. You can say, okay, well, our Nashville site's doing phenomenally well. We can go down there, map out the site on Site to Do Business, and then try to gather all the information that kind of highlights why is this particular site so highly performing. So you be able to track.
And for that specific use case, I would probably start by going to Moody's, and I would pull a report for retail in that area. And that's going to quickly give us a market snapshot. It'll let us know what the average rents are. It'll let us know what the 10 last transactions were. What were the 10 biggest transactions in the last year? It'll talk a little bit about the population growth and demographics. So we can quickly understand that asset class in that area. The next thing I would do would probably go to Business Analyst. And like you mentioned, that client client's going to have some criteria, and that's not only going to be what they can pay in rent and where their employees are located. They've probably got some variables that make their business tick, and they're going to need people. They're going to need, median household income they probably care about. They're going to tell about the retail spending on specific goods and services. And if this, particular retailer is, let's say, an electronics dealer, we can look at the specific spending habits for electronics in that area. And if they give us, let's say, the 5 variables that make their business tick, we can enter those variables in Business Analyst, and then we can work it back to the single strongest census block in that area for those variables and pinpoint, based on what you told me makes you successful, this would be the single best census block to put that. I would then go back to Moody's and look at properties in that area, or look at my listing database to look at available listings in that area and try to match them for that reason. I would if we determine 3 or 4 potential locations around that area, maybe I would use Scout Space and put those locations in for a tenant tour. I would build in all the listings so that they have that information at their fingertips. And then just in Business Analyst, simply running executive summaries, retail goods and services reports, just to get an idea of what people are spending their money on in that area. Another way I've seen people use it for relocation, a lot of them care a tremendous amount about where their employees are located and where their commutes are going to be, and what's the employee experience going to be like. So we can quickly get a list of employees and addresses and upload it to Business Analyst. It will plot all of the employees on the map, and then you can look at their drive times in relation to that potential new location to start to simulate, what are my employees going to have to go through to get here every day, and likewise, what are my consumers going to have to go through to get here every day. So looking at that drive time analysis and what areas are accessible and how you can get to them, I find extremely valuable. So that's how I would start to thread the needle for the retail use case.
Definitely. No, that's huge. And creating a system that you can follow, because again, once you have an idea of the steps that you can take within the system, now it becomes a checklist. So anytime that a new tenant or new developer or new client comes your way and you say, okay, Mr. Client, we're going to go through this step-by-step process to get you to where we can find the best location for whatever your need is. So that's super
and in
helpful.
addition to those reports you can pull out of Business Analyst, you also have infographics, which includes a lot of the same information, but instead of a 2-3 page PDF with a lot of data on it, this is a nice visual picture with representations. It's wonderful to copy and paste into a report. But you can also build your own custom reports and infographics in Business Analyst. So if you're working with those retailers exclusively and you know what they care about, and you're going to replicate this process time and time again, you can create your own specific reports that includes that information. And that's a little more leverage that you have that none of the others user have, because you've taken the time to do that, and you can now replicate your workflow pretty quickly.
Definitely. No, that's some great advice. So, that's on the tenant side. One thing that, I've started to work a lot with, especially recently, has been site selection for developments. So could you kind of talk about the use case? I'm sure it's somewhat similar in the sense of the tenant, but there are some unique things that developers have to consider as they're going through the process of selecting sites. And I wonder if you could share maybe some insights as to, some of the tools that you could leverage on Site to Do Business to make your life a lot easier.
And a lot of the same tools, but we just leverage them in slightly different ways. So I'm currently working with a investment group that builds affordable housing communities, and they're considering doing so in the New Orleans area. So I recently pulled, the specific area they're looking at. I pulled some demographic information, and they were specifically looking to see, of the households in this area, which percentage have kids. And what are the incomes going to do? Are the income projected to grow over the next 5 years? Is projected to decline? They were actually looking to see it decline because they're looking to build affordable housing, right? But we can also look at the industries that they work in there. We can see what the location quotients are for each of those industries. But as working with that developer, I quickly ran that for the general area. And then I also looked at some existing affordable housing developments, and I ran the same reports for those specific communities so they can see how affordable housing is performing as compared to the area as a whole. Ultimately, it showed them that the population is growing, the income quite is not. There is a higher demand for smaller spaces because the household size is not growing at that rate. And it gave them the information they needed to know that they would be successful in building this new community in that area. So that's typically how I approach that in working with the developer types. And then on the other side, I work in site selection with a lot of industrial developers, and you can use it in much of the same way. And even if you don't have an address, maybe this industrial area is out in the middle of nowhere. Instead of giving an address, you can also drop a pin on your map in Business Analyst, or you can draw a polygon for that unique area. And then from there, in dealing with industrial, you're probably not looking at your 5-10 minute drive time that those quick service restaurants look at. You're probably looking at more of a 30-45 minute, because that's where you'll capture your labor force. And then you can quickly run labor force profiles. We can see, what is the labor force participation rate? What's the white collar versus blue collar? What's the educational attainment? It gives you an idea of your workforce that's going to make you successful as an industrial site in the area. And then as an industrial site, if it's in the distribution and logistics, we can use these drive times to look at the accessible areas we can get to see, all right, I have this distribution site here within a 3-hour drive. Where all can I get? And we can quickly look at that on the map to see how many of those logistics departments that you need to make that train successful.
Definitely. No, that's great insight to share. Go ahead. What were you saying? I'm sorry. I didn't. Oh, there was some feedback. Maybe that's why. I'm sorry. So, regarding that, I mean, what are some of the, I guess, newer technologies that you guys have been trying to incorporate into the Site to Do Business tool? I mean, we talked about some of the ones that you've already partnered with. Where do you see this going? I mean, how are you? What other tools are you wanting to see over the next couple of years that could maybe further amplify the impact that Site to Do Business has for the membership?
Yeah, I think AI is going to play a big part into that. AI prior, we were all using ChatGPT and largely text-based outputs that we could leverage. We can use this to help build out our offering memorandums and that sort of thing. We're now seeing the more complex products incorporate AI as an engine behind to compute and calculate, and it moves a lot quicker. And so as we move forward, I'm hoping that AI makes these tools a lot more user-friendly, a lot more accessible. We're going to get to the point where the technology is starting to control the technology instead of us users that have a little more learning curve there. So I've seen some things that are coming with Esri and Business Analyst. Business Analyst does have a AI chatbot built into it. And if you're in Business Analyst, it's a little star at the top right of the screen. It's called the Beta Assistant. And I've been very impressed with it. I'll say about 6 months ago, it was only really a reference source. You could ask it questions and it would kind of give you recommendations. But as of today, it's taking action for you. So it will plot sites, it will run reports for you, and they're going to steadily expand those capabilities. So it's going to get to the point where instead of me clicking around and having to remember how to do everything in Business Analyst, I'll just talk to this AI assistant and they'll do it for me. And then right around the corner is the speech to text capability. So if I'm on the go, maybe I don't even have to type to this assistant. We can just have a real-time conversation. And I'm also seeing a lot of great things with Esri incorporated there with Business Analyst. We're going to have 3D base maps. So right now on Business Analyst, you have probably 10, 15 different base maps you can pick from. If you want to see satellite imagery, kind of like on Google Maps, and you can switch between. I can look at the actual satellite imagery. I can switch to the street maps if I want to highlight the arteries and roads and intersections. There's a hybrid of both. There's a number of different maps you can use, but they're all two-dimensional at this point. And 3D base maps are just around the corner. Esri has entered into a partnership with Google for the 3D tile data that you can get out of the Google Earth functions. So we're quickly going to go from a 2D demographic analysis to a 3-dimensional graphic analysis. And that gets very interesting. Esri is also working on the concept of digital twins. And I think this has a lot of implication for commercial real estate. I'm already seeing digital twins in South Louisiana done by Exxon and our chemical producers. There's a lot of pipeline infrastructure here, and they've actually created a digital twin of their pipeline infrastructure, and down to the nut, the bolt, everything that makes it possible. And now they can run a 20, 30, 50-year simulation with this digital twin, and they can say that there's an 87% chance that this valve goes out in 2032, and they can kind of simulate and forecast to stay up to date on maintenance and be a little more proactive rather than reactive. And I think that has a lot of implication for commercial real estate. We currently forecast and simulate the financial performance of an asset over 5, 10, 15 years. And now we'll be able to simulate the physical performance of that asset over the same period. And we'll take into, environmental concerns into account, city infrastructure, traffic counts. So that's going to get very, very interesting very fast. And in relation to that agreement between Esri and Google, it kind of goes both ways. Google's done a wonderful job with their AI products, whether you use Gemini or Notebook LM, wonderful tools. The next round of large language models that Google releases are going to be intended to work with GIS data. And I think that gets very, very cool. In addition to have all those Esri demographic variables we're talking about, Google also has the Google search history for everybody, which has a lot of information in it. It's also got all the Google Maps data. So right there in Gemini, you'll be able to ask, within a 5-minute drive time of this address, what's my total population? How many people are going to coffee shops? What do they spend on coffee shops? It's really neat where that's going. And then with the 3D maps and the holographic displays, I've recently seen a prototype where you just talk and the map spins and pops up and animates, and you can just simply ask it, what coffee shop is closest to the Empire State Building? Oh, it's a Starbucks. How many people visit that Starbucks on a daily basis? Oh, 18,000. What's the average spending of coffee in this area? Quickly run a void and tell me how many coffee shops are here but not there. And in the meantime, the map is just interactive and controllable by your voice. All of this is right around the corner, and we should see it sooner than later. And so the capabilities, while they're going to get better, it's the ease of use and the accessibility that I truly see, because, and honestly, business analyst is already capable of more than most of us understand or use on a daily basis. And the reason that we don't is just we have to sit down for 40 hours and actually learn this. But with the AI assistance and those capabilities, I think that learning curve starts to disappear. And this is right in the hands of your everyday user.
Absolutely. And to your point regarding the usability in the future is that, and we've talked about this in the past, and I know that other people that I've talked about with other tools is you now become more of a person who has to learn how to prompt these technologies to perform certain actions. So instead of you having to know how to run all these different reports, filter through all these different things, you have to learn how to create processes and systems to prompt these technologies to generate the data so that you can then take it and interpret it and provide it to your client as a value add. So,
yep.
And I'm assuming out of curiosity with how you've been kind of learning about prompting, because you do a phenomenal job. You make a lot of posts on LinkedIn about ways that you can prompt these tools to provide you with the inputs you need. How have you kind of learned the best ways to be able to do that? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah. Here's the secret sauce. Let the AI give you the perfect prompt. And I'll say that the prompting is still very important, but it's less and less important by the day because the natural language processing element of the AI has gotten so smart. It understands us so much better than Siri understood us 5 years ago. It's insane. So yes, to get a really good prompt, you can start a conversation in ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and just say, this is what I'm trying to accomplish. I'm looking for a very well-crafted prompt to execute. Please review and give me an extensive prompt to accomplish this scenario. And it's going to give you a wonderful paragraph. And when you let AI talk to AI, you usually get a little better result than when we try to talk to AI. So that's one way if you really want a very good prompt, detailed, walk through the conversation with an AI model and have it formulate the prompt for you, and then simply copy and paste it over a new conversation. But I'll say, like I mentioned, the natural language processing has gotten so good that this is a new intern. Just talk to it, learn how to talk to it, but have that free flowing conversation. This is what I do on a daily basis. This is what I'm trying to accomplish today. How can you help me? You will be enlightened with what it responds with. And don't think you have to come back there with a paragraph prompt that's going to give you a single result. It's probably going to be a little more of a conversation. And as you have that conversation with the model and you pull all of your information out, then you can always say, review all of the above and summarize and provide X, Y, Z. You can build it on from there. So the prompting is still important, but you also don't need to overthink it. Just have a conversation and get started.
And to your point, you referenced that within the actual Site to Do Business platform, and Esri interactiveness, you're trying to develop a tool such that at some point you can generate reports just by having free-flowing conversations with this tool. Is there a timeline on when that is actually going to take place, or is it already taking place and maybe I'm just unaware of it?
It's already doing a lot. It can certainly pull up some reports for you, but that is all native to business analysts at the moment.
Sure.
What I would like to see is our chatbot that we're deploying. We're going to put a large language model on Site to Do Business that is largely going to be an API call to ChatGPT, but it's going to be branded for Site to Do Business. We're going to give it the additional knowledge base of what CCIM is, what our core classes are, what our products are. You'll be able to upload files, do quick analysis, but it's going to be familiar to Site to Do Business. I'm hoping to be able to hook direct access to all of our products to this large language model. So then you can just live right there and you can quickly say, pull me a 5-minute drive time report out of Business Analyst for this area, pull me the aerial imagery out of Pictometry, go ahead and pull the retail report out of Moody's for me. That way it consolidates all the products and you just have to live in one ecosystem. And that's somewhere we're already seeing some application. As you know, in Business Analyst, you pull all of these reports. You may pull 5 or 6, an executive summary, a demographic summary, a retail profile. I've started taking all of those reports over to a large language model like ChatGPT or Claude, upload them, and tell it to analyze and summarize for my client, who is, XYZ, a multifamily developer considering a affordable housing community in this area. And so it's not only going to summarize all of that good demographic information, but it's going to present it in a specific use case to your client and how they can leverage it for their exact need. And then from there, I can have it give me a slide-by-slide breakdown to go create a presentation with this data. We can use Gamma, one of those products we talked about a year ago, to instantly go ahead and prepare that for us. So that's kind of where we're looking to take it in the long run. But it's going to be baby steps at first. The first step is simply getting that large language model with the CCIM hat on the dashboard. I want to see how that rolls and how it functions with our member base. And if successful, then go ahead and try to hook it to all of these data sources so we can consolidate.
That's awesome. And that's more of a year timeline is what you're thinking, or maybe even less. Yeah.
Conservatively, we'll say a year or so. This changes by the day. But the CCIM Institute is governed by a lot of different boards and committees that we have to get approved.
I get it.
So
I get it.
And that is very good because that keeps us in guardrails and keeps us moving in the right direction. But we tend to move a little slower for that reason, just to make sure we get it right the first time.
No, that's great. It's your point. I mean, and it gives you the time to really think through how to roll out the product so that it is the most impactful. And I'm looking.
And as you've seen with AI moving so fast, I hate to write a 6-figure check for a product or a development, and then 3 months later it pops up for free online. I mean, it is just moving that fast at this point. And as much the ambitions that we have. We are also talking Esri, which is a international company that are working on AI products of their own. So I'm not going to be gullible and think we're going to beat them and put out a better product than they could with their $1 million research and development arm of their company. But that doesn't mean we can't investigate and have some AI developments aside on our own. So it's very exciting what we're looking at and what's coming there.
Absolutely. And you're providing additional value to the membership, right? Because you have thousands and thousands of members all over the world. And if there's a way that you can make their lives easier in some way and add some value to them and their clients, obviously it creates an opportunity for CCIM to expand its impact around the world. So,
yep. And we love to hear feedback from our members. Let us know what's working, what's not. It's important to remember with our member base, we all sit in different seats. So some of us are brokers, some of us are property managers, some of us are mortgage lenders. And this has value in all of those places. We might just use it slightly differently, but we try to keep this all encompassing so that it is a good leverageable product for all of our members. And if you haven't noticed, we have updated the dashboard here in the last 30 days, and we are looking to revamp the entire Site to Do Business website. We're going to give it a little more modern look, give it a facelift. We've started by just redesigning the dashboard because that's where most people live. So as you go in there now, it may look a little different, but all your tools are still there. There is a little search bar. You can search for tools quickly. You can get better descriptions. Just a little face look. It looks a little different, but all the same capabilities are there. Also like to highlight on Site to Do Business, when you're logged in at the top right, you'll see some tabs. One of them is the Learning Center. And we have a lot of resources here on the Learning Center. We do webinars about once a month, and everything we've ever done is listed there. You can go back through, watch it, pull up your screen, follow along, pause it. We've got some, like I said, those are about hour-long webinars, but we've also got some 5-10 minutes how do I videos if you just need the basics, how do I make a site, so on. We offer weekly training. We do a couple 30-minute sessions a week. We limit it to a small amount of people just so kind of everybody gets a time to talk. But if you ever want to join those, come and talk to us. Even if you don't have a question to ask, those are very enlightening to join just to hear what other people are asking and talking about. And I have learned something every time I've tagged along on those training sessions. So that's on the website. It's under the webinars tab. If you need training, there's a little link. You can quickly sign up there. So we try to put a lot of good resources up there to help people navigate these tools. We do know there's a learning curve involved. So whether it's the webinars you watch, the quick how-to videos, we do tech tips on Tuesdays on our social media channels. As we go to the CCIM events like the spring forum, the fall forum, we'll be going to in Vancouver here coming this fall. We always have a booth. We set aside times to visit one-on-one with our members if they're having any struggle. We also try to offer a couple classes at those events, lunch and learn style. We usually offer a beginner and a more intermediate. Some people do both. Some people just want the intermediate or the beginner, but we offer those for them. So we try to distill this and give training to our members in a number of ways, but we always welcome feedback. And when in doubt, just reach out to us. We're happy to help and work with you.
Definitely. And also you all have been working on trying to have a point of contact at local chapters for Site to Do Business as well. So I know we've been working with a gentleman as well who's going to be helping us kind of in the Kentuckiana area, incorporates also Tennessee. That's kind of in our region. And so we're going to have a point of contact within our region. So even if you're listening to this in your own respective region and you're a member of CCIM, consider reaching out to your leadership within CCIM locally and see if you can get connected with a point of contact for that as well. It's very helpful. So,
and what you're referring to there is the ambassador program that we've just launched. And so basically we have designated an ambassador for every chapter of CCIM throughout the nation. And we're going to meet with them on probably a monthly basis. We're going to give them some more extensive training. We're going to provide them with a monthly newsletter so they know what's going on in real time. All information that they can take back to their chapters, provide training, let them know what's coming. Historically, Site to Do Business has only been run by two people, and that's Carol Campbell and Ben Wilson, and they are amazing at what they do. But how they have done this with two people for so long is a mystery to me. So they brought me in January, and we've also added a wonderful lady named Ashley Bland. She's going to be our marketing content director. So you'll see the social media channels and the content we put out is going to get a little better because we've got a girl doing it that kind of knows what she's doing there. And so now we have a 4-person team, and we're hoping to be able to scale a little more. We're going to leverage those ambassadors to bring this knowledge back to each of the chapters, provide that training. And that's also what we intend to visit, do a little more, in-person classroom training, build on to the 102 class. A lot of those instructors have kind of started to add an optional day on Friday. As you know, those courses are usually a Monday to Thursday kind of thing. And so a lot of them have started to do an optional day on Friday where they'll do Site to Do Business training. And we're trying to formulate some official courses that we may offer through the Ward Center, maybe give a certificate for Site to Do Business use or something like that. So a lot of ideas we're exploring in that regard.
That's awesome. No, that's super helpful. So, I mean, I'm encouraged to hear that the CCIM Institute is putting a big emphasis on these types of tools because, again, it's how we stay relevant. I think at the end of the day, if you're not learning, then you're going backwards. So you constantly have to find ways to improve. And I'm proud to be affiliated with the CCIM Institute. I'm going to be in local leadership here in the next year. I mean, I've been in local leadership for a while, but I'll be the president next year. And so I'm excited to continue to contribute in some way. And for those of you guys who are listening to this podcast, please leave some feedback. Or, if you guys have any questions in particular, feel free to type away in the chat box. We want to make sure that we have the opportunity for a Q&A if you guys have any particular or pressing questions you have for Bryant. In the meantime, I wanted to ask, do you wish that I would ask you a particular question, or is there something in particular that you were thinking that you wanted to kind of cover during this discussion that maybe we didn't cover?
No, you are a wonderful guide in these podcast episodes and the questions you asked there, Raphael. Nothing comes to mind. If you want to explore anything outside of Site to Do Business, AI related, I'm more than happy to stick around for a while.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Maxwell. So he said this was very interesting information. Thank you both, and great job. That's awesome. Good to hear.
Thank you,
Glad
Max.
you get some value from it.
Yeah.
We'll give it a minute or two more.
Well, if I've done nothing else, I'm hoping when we hang up, maybe you'd be a little more excited to go try Business Analyst again, Raphael. And I hope.
Oh yeah. Well, I use it. And I'll be candid with the group. So I've used Site to Do Business for many years, but most of the reports that I've generated have been kind of the executive summaries, the traffic counts. Sometimes I'll dive into the tapestries and determine, okay, well, let's say I'm working with a medical user and I want to see medical spending in a particular area. Sometimes it's a unique thing to share. But I think the hardest part oftentimes with using the tool is that I don't know how I could fit it together and how I get from, all the robustness of Business Analyst to the end goal, which is like, I want to educate my clients so they make the best decision possible. So, sometimes you just get overwhelmed with what you have in front of you. And so that's why I was very thankful that we had a chance to go through some of those use cases and say, hey, look, I got a retail tenant. They want to find the best spot for them. What type of reports can I run? How can I present the information to them so it's most valuable for them, so that it makes me look good and ultimately helps my client get it to the best situation for them. So, obviously the use cases we just went through were very helpful.
Yeah. And you hit the nail on the head there. That is one product we're lacking, and something I'm working on developing is a report builder of sorts that's built into Site to Do Business, because we currently pull wonderful data out of all of these products, and then it's kind of up to us on, well, where do we take it from here? I'm currently taking it over to GPT and analyzing it, and then over to Gamma for a presentation. So I would like to see something like Gamma built into, if not Site to Do Business, within the Esri ecosystem. And then once I pull these reports, I have this data, I can simply select what data I want to include. I can give it the purpose of my analysis, and then instantly generate a report similar to what you've seen Gamma do outside of the ecosystem. But we have wonderful data from the products, and we're working on a solution to be able to consolidate and present that data into a report or a presentation of sorts.
That's awesome. You guys should integrate with Synthesia or HiGen and try to get the full, have us be able to present all that information in real time, right? So
there you go.
That'd be kind of cool. Well, Brian, I think you answered all the questions that we had so far, but first off, I obviously always enjoy our conversations. It's always a pleasure to speak with you and learn more about what you guys are doing at the Institute. But if people want to learn more about, Site to Do Business, or just to keep in touch with you and follow along with any potential information that could be a benefit to them, how can they do that?
Yeah, reach out to me at bcheely@ccim.com. Direct email to me. You can also find me on LinkedIn. Just search Bryant Cheely. I come up pretty easily there. You can also reach out to my brokerage email. That's bcheely@rampartcre.com. However it's easiest for you to get in touch with me, go ahead. We also have a general support@stdb.com email address, just for general customer support needs. That comes to Ben Wilson and I, Carol Campbell, whichever of us are available, we'll jump on there and help you out. If we need to hop on a Zoom call and walk through it one-on-one, we're happy to do it. So just let us know where we can help.
Definitely. And we'll include all that in the show notes. If you guys are watching this, it'll be in the description on YouTube, or we'll push it out on the podcast format as well. Before we head out, we do have one final question. It looks like Matthew came in and asked, what tool lets you search for properties with negative cash flow by filtering for a DSCR below 1?
Yeah, that's going to be Moody's Market Pro, which is one of those add-on tools. I think that's typically about $350 a month. We offer it at $120 a month with your CCIM discount there. But that allows you to pull the market reports. It lets you look at different comps and properties in the area. And then it does have that loan information so that you can filter by delinquency or debt service coverage ratio.
That's awesome. Yeah. And also, again, feel free to listen back to this podcast, because at the beginning we were touching on all the different tools that have already been the CCIM Institute. Well, that they've been working on integrating into the platform and provide unique insights for whatever the use cases are. And I'm sure that's going to continue to expand over the course of the next few years. So constantly try to follow along with all the different updates, and we'll make sure that all the information that Brian talked about, particularly related to the way you can get in touch with them, is going to be in the description. So don't hesitate to reach out. Brian doesn't bite, I can tell, because I've definitely been in touch with you many times. So definitely. Well, Brian, I really appreciate your time as always. Great to see you as always. Glad to hear you're doing well. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe. It makes a huge impact on our ability to reach a broader audience. Along with that, if you guys are listening to this in a podcast format, whether that's Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please leave a 5-star review. It does make an impact on our ability to reach a broader audience, and we obviously greatly appreciate the support. So thanks again so much for tuning in, and we'll see you all next time.